The NBA is going through a massive transformation, and it can only be great news for the Utah Jazz. Next on Locked on Jazz. Bum 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 pow.
You are Locked on Jazz, your daily podcast on the Utah Jazz. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
How are you? I'm David Locke, radio voice of the Utah Jazz, Jazz NBA insider. This is Locked on Jazz, your daily podcast on the Utah Jazz, giving you insight, expertise, geeky numbers, and hopefully making it way better to be a Jazz fan each and every day. Thank you so much for making Locked on Jazz your first listen of the day. We are free and available on all podcasting apps and on YouTube. And the everydayers, you're the best. Today's show is brought to you by Monarch Money. Take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use the code LOCKEDONNBA at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. Thank you so much for making Locked on Jazz your first listen. I greatly appreciate it. We are part of the Locked on Podcast Network, your team every day. Here's what we got. You requested that I watch Rasheer Fleming. I did. I will give you some thoughts on him. You requested that I watch Kon Knueepel ACC without Cooper Flag. I did. I will also tell you at the end of both of these, I had lost much of my own personal confidence in scouting players. The questions that have to be answered on both of these two players are so significant that I'm not sure that I am actually equipped to be able to give you the right answer. So I will tell you what my questions are, and where, as someone is watching them in the limited time I'm watching them, it's hard for me to tell. We're going to start with the transformation that's taking place in the NBA as Indiana and Oklahoma City will play in the NBA Finals. We'll have our seventh new champion. We knew that already. But this is a sign that the league is changing. First off, just little tiny subtle things. It's the first time, really ever, I think, that neither team played on Christmas Day. Okay? So that means you don't have large markets, you don't have marquee franchises, and you don't have the franchises everyone knew were going to win when the year started. We knew Oklahoma City was. They probably should have had a Christmas Day game. But since they have a putrid market, they decided not to give them a national TV game. They will from now on out. But this is massive for us. Because, frankly, every myth or you can decide they were true about the NBA is no longer true. Okay? Star-driven league. Tyrese Halliburton's not that big a star. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, kind of, but not that big a star. Great player. Just not that big a star yet. Major market league. Nope. Indiana and Oklahoma City combined would be the 17th largest market in the NBA. Combined. This is going to be a ratings bloodbath for the NBA. The new collective bargaining agreement has changed the game. We've talked about it for weeks on end, if you're an everydayer, that those 85 million was the number that Indiana, New York, and Minnesota had for their two best players. Oklahoma City's far less, and depth is suddenly prevailing. So what's interesting is in a day and age which is virtually hard cap people, with that second apron and that first apron being so restrictive, and the second apron becomes so restrictive to any other player movement that you can't improve your team. And so teams are just desperately trying to get out of the second apron, because those teams that were in the second apron got themselves into a position, I think, where they can't make enough roster moves, they can't make enough adjustments, they can't do enough things to be able to fix their franchise, get their team, and they get hamstrung along the way, and they don't make it. But what the other thing that's happened here is depth has become more and more important. Oklahoma City's played like 11 guys. Indiana's played like 12. And they've used them all in different ways. The other thing that's happened here in the NBA is that talent evaluation has become more important than ever. Kevin Pritchard in Indiana, Sam Presti in Oklahoma City have done unbelievable jobs. The three things that have formed a championship teams combining Indiana and Oklahoma City, if you want to look at it, there are 3 common threads. Okay, maybe 4. 6'6", awesome point guards. Okay, that might matter. The second one is talent development. Or maybe the first one. The third one, and we'll dig into each of these in a second. The third one is talent evaluation. And the fourth one is executing trades and deals. None of those are large market, big city, massive salary cap. None of those are the things Utah can't do. So if you're Utah and you're looking at Oklahoma City and Indiana, and the signature common thread between these two teams is great trades, great talent evaluation, and great player development, and a 6'6" all-star point guard. None of those are you prohibited in Utah from doing. But when the Lakers were playing the Celtics and the Sixers were the next best team, you felt a little prohibited. There were periods of time where we all believed the Stars just got all the calls, and it wasn't really true then either. But now, really, it's out the window. It's out the window. When you look at what's happened here, the model of how you're building a roster is changing. Now, where the Jazz are, what's interesting to me is where the Jazz are in this transformation is interesting to me because we're not quite roster building yet. So, in one sense, and we're going to do an exercise this week where I haven't quite figured out how to do it yet. I've been trying to noodle it through where I'm going to try to do like a thought exercise with you where literally I just kind of open up my brain and try to share it with you on how this all plays out. There's a feeling to me that the door for us to accelerate a rebuild here is there because of this. That part of the key to this is getting players who you develop and then you keep and are good enough and are cheap, and then you build around them because they're part of your depth when you go get your guys. If we look at Oklahoma City and we look at Indiana, I think we've looked at Oklahoma City a lot. We should probably be looking at Indiana. But some of the key pieces in Oklahoma City are Lou Dort, undrafted, signed for 16, 17, and 17 million. Isaiah Joe, cut by Philadelphia, signed at 11 and 12 million. Aaron Wiggins, second to last pick of the second round, signed for 5 years on a decreasing deal from 10 to 7 million. Kendrick Williams, who was part of their rebuild, signed for 3 years at 6 and 7 million a year. And then they have a young kid in Cason Wallace, and but a lot of this is they found talent that matched them and developed them. And then because they are young, and Jalen Williams is only making $5 million right now, and Shea's still only making 38. It allowed them to go pay Isaiah Hartenstein 30 and trade for Alex Caruso and give him an extension who's making 18, 19, 20. Not a bad number, but they also knew they wouldn't be in trouble because of their roster. What Kevin Pritchard's done is absolutely fabulous. Obi Toppin, displaced from New York, 12, 14, 15, 16 million. Aaron Nesmith, displaced from Boston, giving up on him, 11 million a year. TJ McConnell, just a perfect fit, undrafted. You worked him, he was in Philly, I think, before that, 5 years at a 5-year contract, 10 million a year. Drafted Benedict Mathurin, drafted Jerice Walker, not brilliant drafts. Frankly, neither of these teams have drafted brilliantly, and there's only one top 5 pick on both rosters. Chet Holmgren is the only top 5 pick, and I wouldn't say either of these franchises have completely drafted brilliantly. Indiana's probably drafted better than Oklahoma City other than the Jalen Williams pick. But Sam Presti's missed a lot on draft picks and has not missed on developing players. But Indiana, Benedict Mathurin's a nice player if you kind of look at their draft history. Jerice Walker, these are not a bunch of draft picks. And the key thing, obviously, we've talked about it a lot, the key thing for Oklahoma City was Shea. The key piece for Indiana was the gutsy trade for Pascal Siakam. Pascal Siakam was going to be a free agent, wanted a max deal, and a bunch of the league was really concerned about doing it. And here's what they gave up for Pascal Siakam: Bruce Brown, Jordan Nwora, Kyra Lewis, a 2024 first-round pick, a 2024 lesser first-round pick of Utah, Houston, Clippers, and Oklahoma City, and a conditional 2026. I don't know the conditions on it. They didn't give up much of anything for Pascal Siakam. 0 players, 2 picks in this year's draft that are going to turn out to be post 10, which means that when you look at those picks, those are going to be picks that end up being, and I think even Indiana, 2024 draft. That was last year's draft. So they didn't get, off top, well, it was a terrible draft. So I don't even know what Indiana got off it. Sorry, I had forgotten what year it was. Last year, Jacoby Walter, I think, is one of those picks. And that's the excitement of the Pascal Siakam trade. Those are the kind of deals you have to make. But if you're a Jazz fan, this is great. Because if our front office is good, if Danny Ainge and Justin Zanuck are good, they can do trades. They can do talent evaluation. And we've proven we can do player development under Will Hardy. So if we're good at our jobs, you can have success. And that's everything the NBA was trying to prove. The other thing is that the myth that everyone's the same isn't true either. Plus, Kon Knueepel next on Locked On Jazz. Monday edition of Locked On Jazz is brought to you by Murdoch Chevy, located out in Logan and at Woods Cross. The Chevy truck, Americana. Murdoch's 80-plus years in Utah. The combination does not get much better than that. It is the Colorado and the Silverado trucks. It is the Suburban and the Tahoe. It is everything that Chevy's made of. And it's with the Murdochs, making sure that you get the no regrets experience. If you'd like the VIP experience and you're looking for a Chevy right now, email me at dlock09@gmail.com. That's dlock09@gmail.com. And we will make sure that you get the VIP experience in Woods Cross or out in Logan. Email me and let me know which of those 2 locations you're going to. Is right now the time for you to be cruising around in a Chevy truck? You bet it is. So get it done at Murdoch Chevy in Woods Cross and in Logan. Today's show is also brought to you in part by Monarch Money. Have you ever asked yourself, where's all the money going? Why are we not running a surplus? Every time you wonder and you look in, well, right now you can find out, because that's where Monarch Money comes in. Your personal CFO, giving you full visibility and control over your finances. Monarch Money isn't just a budgeting app. It's a complete financial command center. You can track all your accounts, investments, spending in one place, so you stop just managing your money and start building wealth. It gives you surprising insights. It's easy collaboration with your partner, smoother than ever. You can track shared and personal accounts, set goals, and stay on the same page without the stress. And it's the all-in-one convenience. Instead of juggling multiple apps, you can use Monarch to check your finances, track spending, and even plan long-term goals. It's pretty great. And I want to point out, you also can find out positives. Oh, we're doing really well in this regard and in that regard. Those things to me are just as important. So take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use the code LOCKEDONNBA at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. That's monarchmoney.com. Code LOCKEDONNBA for half off your first year. Thanks so much for making Locked On Jazz your first listen of the day. We are free and available on all podcasting apps. All right. So we just kind of went in how these teams are built. Oklahoma City tanked for 2 years. Indiana never did. There's only one top 5 pick in either of the 2 teams ditching. By the way, I was right. The Toronto Raptors, Bruce Brown, Kyra Lewis, Jordan Nwora, and Jacoby Walter. There's a 2026 pick still. The 2024 pick, other conditional pick that they got, is actually the pick that the Jazz used to take Isaiah Collier because they went and got Ochai Agbaji and Kelly Olynyk in that deal. So for Pascal Siakam, Toronto got Bruce Brown, Kyra Lewis Jr., Jordan Nwora, Kelly Olynyk, Ochai Agbaji, and Jacoby Walter. Indiana did not give up anything to get a player that transformed their franchise. Those are the deals. The Aaron Nesmith player recognition. The Nebhard player recognition. And a lot of luck. Like, let's not forget the lot of luck part. They tried to trade, or that felt like they tried to trade. Let me just say that more clearly. Miles Turner a million times. Right? It felt like they tried to trade Miles Turner a million times. But instead, like with the first pick of the second round, they drafted Andrew Nebhard along the way. Out of Gonzaga. Like, that's a great pick. Obviously, they talent recognition with trading Domantas Sabonis for Tyrese Halliburton. Aaron Nesmith was in Boston, floundering, out of Vanderbilt, great shooter. Danny Ainge originally drafted him. The Indiana Pacers traded Malcolm Brogdon to Boston and got basically Aaron Nesmith. Perfect. Obi Toppin was in New York. They didn't want to re-sign him. So Indiana did. Just a pure, good old actually, I think he was traded with a conditional pick so they could do a sign trade. But basically a free agent signing. Just well done. And frankly, their big draft picks, Benedict Mathurin played 8 minutes and Jerice Walker played 7 the other night in New York. All right. Here's the other one that's interesting. They're not similar at all. This is even more good news. There's no one way to play in the NBA right now. Despite the fact that everybody wanted to talk about how the league is exactly the same, copy cutter league and all this. Okay. Let's go with the various things we've heard from people, none of which are true. All anybody does is shoot threes. Everybody's doing the same. The truth of the matter is that everyone shoots threes. That is true. And so therefore, the exact opposite is true than what everybody's saying. Because everyone's shooting threes, the other areas are where the difference is being made. So, Indiana takes the 20th most amount of threes in the NBA, and Oklahoma City takes the 17th most. Both of them are below average in taking threes. Indiana denies threes, the 5th most of any team in the NBA, and Oklahoma City allows threes, the 3rd most of any team in the NBA. Oklahoma City denies you going to the rim, the 7th most of any team in the league, and Indiana doesn't do a very good job of denying the rim. Oklahoma City allows the most corner threes in the NBA, which seems insane. Indiana only allows the 12th most. Well, is there something else you can find in, like, whether they all force turnovers or they all allow offensive rebound or they all don't force? Indiana and Oklahoma City don't turn the ball over. This is the big thing. They value the possession game. In Oklahoma City first, Indiana third, do not turn the ball over. How about offensive rebounding? Oklahoma City's 19th, Indiana's 29th. For all our talk about how much offensive rebounding matters and the possession game, and I've generally been there, not for these two teams. Oklahoma City goes to the free throw line the 23rd most of any team in the NBA. Indiana goes to the free throw line the 15th most. No big thing there. Indiana defies all logic by being 10th and 13th overall. Turnover game defensively, Oklahoma City forces the most. Indiana forces the 13th most. Rebounding, Oklahoma City got better. They're still 21st in the league in rebounding defensively. Indiana, I don't think they're very good. Where did they go? Oh, they're right there. 19th in the league. And Oklahoma City fouls all the time. What about the other ways they play? Do they both run the same type of offense? Nope. If you look at picks per game and how many picks each team runs per game, Indiana runs the 4th most in the NBA. Oklahoma City runs the 20th most. All right, well, if you're not playing pick game, you're probably playing an isolation game. Yep. Oklahoma City plays an isolation game. Indiana doesn't. Oklahoma City runs the isolations per game. They run the 5th most. Indiana runs, I think it was like the 20th most. No common thread. What about off-ball game? Well, if you're not running pick and roll, you're not doing some of those things, you're probably running an off-ball game. Jazz run the most off-ball screens of anyone in the NBA. Oklahoma City runs the 26th most. Indiana runs the 22nd most. So not a lot of off-ball game. Well, no one's posting up. What about a handoff game? Maybe that's the answer, the common thread. Handoffs per game. Jazz ran the 3rd most last year. Oklahoma City runs the 24th most. Indiana runs the 17th most. Nope. And here's the most interesting one. Passes per game. Passes per game. Oklahoma City doesn't pass the basketball. Shea gets it, plays around with it, and they don't pass it. Oklahoma City throws 274 passes, 28th in the NBA. Only Cleveland and Houston less. And Indiana throws 334 passes, 2nd most of anyone in the NBA. Only Golden State more. There's no common thread here. So if you're a Jazz fan, you should be ecstatic. The NBA is transforming. There's no one way to play. It's not about big market, big stars, big money. The door's open. Now I just got to go get it done. You asked me to do 2 things. You asked me to watch Kon Knueepel in his Duke games without Cooper Flag, and you asked me to watch big Rasheer Fleming out of St. Joseph's about the 21st pick, and I did both, and I'll give you my thoughts next on Locked on Jazz. Kon Knueepel's interesting, and so's Rasheer Fleming. And honestly, as I said earlier, I felt like I kind of hit my peak of what I can tell you. So I don't come to you with abundance of confidence right now. Kon Knueepel, I watched the North Carolina and I watched the Louisville game. Here's what there is to like. He's a dead-eye shooter. He's always moving. He seems to make the right decisions all the time. He plays hard and he's tough. I have to be honest, and maybe I just don't get it, and it'll be very interesting to watch his career. I don't see it at 5. Okay? That's my personal opinion. And here's why. And maybe these are silly reasons. One, they obviously put him on the worst offensive player on the other team on every possession. So, like, the guy he was guarding for North Carolina averaged the least amount of points of anyone in their starting 5. The guy he was guarding for Louisville averaged the least amount of points in their starting 5. Like, it's clear to me that's a big tell right there. John Schreier's not doing that because he think. Now, I didn't see Kon Knueepel get beat a lot defensively either. People all got shots over him. The only thing I would say is his closeout never denied. He's 6'6" with no wingspan. The more disturbing one was for me in the first half of the North Carolina game where they actually blow North Carolina out. The first 4 times he drives into the basket, he gets stripped every time. Here's what I don't know enough about. So he's a on-the-ground player. He drives, he beats his guy, he jump stops into 2 feet, he pump fakes, he goes to the basket and scores. The easy one is to want your guy to come off 1 foot and pack it. I can see that, and I can be like, yep, that's my guy. My instinct is this jump stop, pump fake thing's not going to work in the NBA. Like, the guys are just taller, the windows get smaller, guys just hold their verticality, you don't get your shot off, you're dead, you're in trouble, and it falls apart. And then you can't drive, because once that stops, then you're not driving. Then you're pulling up for mid-range shots, which you probably can make, though he didn't take a lot off the bounce shots last year. And then from there, you're now just a spot-up shooter on the outside who's not very good defensively. Okay, I could be dead wrong on this. But that's kind of what I'm seeing. I've talked about this before. He's a year old for what he should be. His off-the-bounce shooting, he was 19 of 58 for 33rd percentile, 35% effective field goal percentage. With my knowledge, which is not enough, I have a hard time seeing anything other than a catch-and-shoot player for Kon Knueepel. Now, he ran some pick and rolls that caught my attention. Okay? He runs the pick and roll from the top super tight. He gets right off his screen. He gets in the play really well. He gets up, and he got to the basket on Louisville early. Against North Carolina, he got stripped early. There is something there with his pick and roll game. So that's the other aspect of where I do think he's got a chance to play some pick and roll stuff in the NBA. He wasn't great at it in college, though. He's in the 31st percentile of pick and roll, which makes him the worst pick and roll player of anyone projected in the first round who ran 40 pick and rolls. That's a little unnerving to me. So if guys ran at least 50 pick and rolls, if you count Ace Bailey, it was at 49. Knueppel's 31st percentile is the worst of any player. Ace Bailey's next at 41. VJ Edgecombe is the next worst at 43, as is Saraf out of Israel. Then Danny Wolf is at 47 percentile, and everyone wants to call him the 7-foot point guard. He'll be at play at 21. And then Jakovicius is next. So, like, kind of a little disconcerting. Trey Johnson, by the way, is in the 80th percentile in pick and roll ball handling. I will say this. The more I watch Kon Knueepel, the more I'd want to dig into Malawach. He's only 4 years into playing. I am a believer in the Gladwellian 10,000 hours. I believe NBA players, Jordan Hill is kind of my poster child on this, who come into the league without 10,000 hours and try to learn at the NBA level. It's just way too hard to learn and basketball at the NBA level at that point. And so I have been generally against the player who's like, oh, he's only played for 4 years and he's still developing and he's going to get better and better. And I generally don't buy that, but boy, is Malawach big. Malawach. So if I were in the room evaluating 5, and I am a sports talk show host who became an NBA play-by-play announcer and not an NBA scout, I don't think I could consider Kon Knueepel, but I think I would keep Malawach in my conversation. All right. Fleming. Rasheer Fleming out of St. Joseph's. 6'9", huge body. 90th percentile in transition to 66 opportunities. One of the better pick and roll men catching we had. Shot it decently this year. 62 percentile in spot up. 79th percentile in catch and shoot. No off the bounce game at all. Again, I'm pretty limited here, I think, in what I'm able to see. Okay. At 21, he's super interesting because he's 6'9" with like a 7'6" wingspan. And that's just a crazy number. So that jumps out to me. He had a good shooting year this year at St. Joseph's. He really spiked. He averaged 10 points a game the year before. He averaged 15 points a game. Last year, he averaged 9 rebounds. He was first team all-league. He's truthfully, his 7'5" wingspan jumps out at you as a defensive player. He had over 50 dunks and 53s last year. There just aren't a lot of guys that have done that combination. I think defensively he'll be able to play a 1-5 switch pretty well. Pretty exciting. His shot blocking reminds me of Jerice Walker when he was at Houston, which is not a great thing, which is you get all these secondary shot blocks in college because the spacing sucks so bad that everyone's so close to the rim that you can come over and block shots. And in the NBA, you'll just never get to them. Jerice Walker was like this big time defensive stalwart in college, and everyone thought he was going to be a great defensive player in the NBA, and like he's blocking a third of a shot a game and has absolutely no defensive impact. So I think that's like, I don't buy necessarily him as a shot blocking force, but I do buy him as a 1-5 switching force. I'm a little nervous about his 3-point shooting. And so suddenly if he doesn't 3-point shoot, then what do you have? Because he doesn't have any dribble game. He doesn't have any offensive creation game. He's really a defensive player who spots up in the corner and shoots threes. He did take a lot of his threes deep that I watched, but I'm a little nervous of whether or not his stroke gets to the NBA distance all right or not. His free throw shooting does not match that of a good 3-point shooter. 69% his first year, 61% his second year. Then this year he hit 74%. He went from 30% 3-point shooting to 32% 3-point shooting to 39% 3-point shooting, which is super exciting, but also could be questionable. At 21, you tell me you get a 6'9" guy with a 7'5" wingspan, I think you try to figure that out. Yeah, at 21, sure. Different standards at 5 and 21. That is Locked On Jazz today. I'm going to try to dig deep. I might be here through Friday this week, and then I'm out. College graduation, all sorts of fun stuff. I know I'm that old. And then fun stuff, and then I'll be back for the final week of the draft. Leaf will take over. I'm trying to do some deep dives on our top 5 picks, on Edgecombe, on Fears, on Trey Johnson, and just continue to give you guys insight on those guys as we get closer. It is Locked On Jazz. Thanks so much for tuning in. Hope you have a wonderful day. Thank you very much for making this your first listen today. The Everydayers, you're the greatest. Follow me on social at DLock09. Subscribe and follow the show. Hit the bell button on YouTube. We now send you the first ever national NBA channel, Locked On NBA. Also, check out NBA Big Board for all the draft news.